Welcome to Little Birdie Podcast. I'm your host, Scoot, and I'm joined by the kid, MG. Been a massive week of AFL, NRL action, and we've just finished the Olympic Games. How are you, MG?
I'm good, Scoot. I've had a big week coming off the Olympics, I guess, just to rest up a little, but no one's had a bigger week than our man Scooty over here. We've got a big announcement that Scooty's had his firstborn. Little girl, the little birdie family's grown by one, and Piper was born on Monday morning.
Yeah, on the quick backup here.
On the quick backup, yeah. He hasn't slept too much, so if he misses a beat or two, Scooty, we understand why. So his lovely partner, Alana, has given birth to a healthy, almost 8-pounder.
Yeah, I think 3.4 kilo in the new.
Yeah.
And she's doing well. Everything's going very, very well for us at Cabrini Hospital. The staff there are fantastic, and yeah, we had a C-section. I tell you what, if your partner needs to have one, or your baby's too heavy or big, or something bad happens, I tell you what, they are unbelievable. It's like an F1 pit crew, and their precision with everything that they do is just world class. So if you're nervous about it and you're forced down that track, don't be too nervous. I was pretty calm, and I was probably more calm when I saw a woman in one of the prep wards who'd been overnight, and she had to go in for an emergency Caesar sometime after us or in a different area. But I thought, we've just taken the rails run here, and it was just a really relaxing experience and a calm experience for the whole thing. And yeah, we're lucky that I think at touchwood to this stage we've got a pretty quiet kid and sleeping really well. So yeah, Lana superstar and the staff there are just amazing. But yeah, great experience. Yep. And had one good night's sleep out of the last two, and
that's a good result.
Yeah, so it's outstanding stuff. So I'm pretty wrapped. But looks like there's a couple of cigars in. I thought you bought the bottle of goose in. I thought that was for Collingwood Hawthorn, the Hawks. I thought we might add a side bet, and you're paying up.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. There's plenty of goose bottles lying around, so I'm not sure who owes what at the moment. But yeah, we just got I don't know if you can see them here. We've got a couple of cigars bought in from Dominican Republic, hand rolled.
Oh yeah, you'd have a fair few of them at home.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, got a couple of boxes, so
outstanding.
They'll go well. We've got the bottle of goose, and also we've just got some flowers.
Thanks, mate. Alana.
Yeah,
done the hard work.
So where we got them here?
Where'd you get them from? The green room.
Yeah, so just the green room.
Albert Park.
Little
shout out.
Yeah, Tash from the green room has looked after us. So
outstanding stuff, MG.
Got a shot there for.
I'll claim them as my own, but then I'll fess up and I'll save it from you. So cheers, mate. Yeah. Outstanding stuff. It's been a big couple of days, and it's we'll get straight into it now. But thanks everyone, and love all the support of family and friends. It's been amazing, and the girls just doing an amazing job. Being a partner, I got the easy thing, and I just need to hold the hand and be moral support. But fantastic stuff there. Big week of AFL. I've missed an absolute doozy by the sounds of it on Monday night. What's this? Melbourne versus West Coast. It's cost me my lock of the week, and it's cost me a lot of money because I declared the Ds at the line. And run us through this one, MG, and for anyone that's missed Monday night's action, they were 30-odd points up the Ds, and they've walked off for half an hour.
Yeah, so we are actually writing a book, believe it or not, of the bad beats of the world, and we've just written another paragraph. So Monday night. Text through Scooty. We were travelling early into the last quarter, 6 goals in front, and the strike of lightning in the area. So under the rules, they've gone off.
I've never heard of this rule.
I think it's only happened maybe twice before for an AFL game. One was a practice match. And so, lightning, 33 points up, I think they were. So they've got to resume the match if it was after half-time, which it was, they had to resume the match within 30 minutes. Otherwise, the final score is declared at what it is. So we were on the countdown clock because you're home and hosed. They were up 33 points on a line of 13.5. And you wouldn't know it, West Coast, season on the line,
they go ahead and play.
Finals. They rebounce the ball at the 29th minute mark of the 30. And yes, what happens then is West Coast kick 4 goals to none, and in the last 90 seconds, the line is flipped with West Coast taking it back to 9 points. So it's a new way to get beat, Scooty. Melbourne were all over them and sailing in the other direction, and lightning strikes, and you do your cash.
Wow! Thank God I was I was in the maternity ward and
saved you
didn't see it.
Saved your TV at home.
It's like getting half your bet back if you don't see the agonising loss, I'd say. But speaking of agonising loss, there's a couple of sick beats. I think top rope Tedeschi, there's a few people asking how did he end up and how did he finish for the Olympics. He crushed out at about 5%. We'll post those results on our Twitter page. But we backed Great Britain in the 4x100 men's relay at $10 or $11, and they got beaten by 0.01 of a second to Italy, and was just absolute jaw-dropping. I think we had one unit at $10, so there was a couple of sick ones there, but
we'll discuss that
we'll
later.
Discuss that later with top rope. But
that bad beat's just been written in pencil at the moment into the book because there might be further news coming down the pipeline that the Italians may be
swabbing,
maybe enhanced. I think so. That might.
The sick thing about that is
might make it worse.
Even if it gets overturned, the punters have still done their dough. It's just crazy. Hey, no bookie unless you're a gilt edge pickled and have a bit of a cry to your bookmaker. I don't think you get that return that turned over, and I just don't think they can anyway, can they? Like
it's part of the trap of betting in the Olympics. I think you some go for you, some don't.
I'll try and call Tristan for a justice payout there, and we might get the chocolates there. The Storm again, they've absolutely dominated, and it was actually it's worth having a look. We did a segment with Tristan last Thursday on Bet Doctor, and he went through some minimum bet law stuff. He went through how they were tracking the AFL and NRL and the Olympics and all that sort of stuff. So interesting content to pick up. So if you want to go back to our last Thursday's episode of Bet Doctor, he gives away a couple of little updates about the industry, and he basically concedes how little they know about the Olympics. So it's a really good eye-opener in terms of bookmakers pricing up things that they don't know much about. So it's good to try and pick off these peripheral markets and really put it up them when you get a chance, because they're guessing, and it was really interesting insight. And he took a couple of big bets on the swimming, and it was just a fascinating little chat. So make sure you pick that up. But the AFL, the bookies have won on the week with 4 of 9 favourites winning, and only 2 have covered the line there. Pretty even scoring, but the biggest win and the highlight for the round was, I think it was Hawthorn beating Collingwood. But it was definitely GWS overturning the Cats, and Tom Stewart was held to no intercept marks, or very few.
Yeah,
fascinating, hey?
Yeah, finally a coach with a game plan.
The coaches have a game plan, and we saw Essendon do it for a quarter down at the Cattery, but to execute that, there is a blueprint to beat the Cats.
Yep, make them accountable. It's and it's not a new blueprint, as you said. It's you've got to execute it. It's a big thing. You can write whatever you want on the whiteboard, but I mean, for most sides, if you want to make their defenses accountable, you've got to hit the lead-up man. So it's a connection between the mids and the forwards, and they executed it very well. And they had different players at different stages tagging Tommy Stewart, and it worked a treat.
To the lowlights of the week, there's Carlton. We'll talk about Carlton later, but the Swans dropped a crucial game against the Saints, and now their top 4 is shaky. They were on this massive run, the Swans, and the wheels sort of fall off them, and they've had a rough run with the draw, with COVID and all those sort of things.
Yeah.
But, disappointing there.
Well, they can't make the top 4 now. It was always going to be a bridge too far. It was a poor loss for him to drop that game to St Kilda, but you can't win them all. And it might have coincided with the meeting up with the partners. Might not have had their minds fully on the job for the weekend. So we'll see how they respond this week. I think you'll get the real Sydney going into September. Will bounce back this week.
Let's have a look at the bookie wrap. This is where we just flick through and look at the scorecard, punters versus bookies, and see how the favourites went. So round 21 for the bookie wrap, we've had 4 out of 9, as I said earlier, 44% the favourites. The line, only 2 of the 9 covered the minus there at 22%, and the overs went 4 and 9 at 44%. If we have a look at the season, it's been 115 favourites out of 180 at 64%. The line, 79 and 80. After 180 matches at 44%, and the totals are over. Slightly ahead there, 93 and 180. Your AFL Stings went 4 and 3. You're starting to nail the totals at the moment, but like all season, it's just been really topsy-turvy at the line there. But as Tristan alluded to last Thursday, they're absolutely smashing the punters in the AFL markets. There's been some real weird upsets, heads up, as we saw last Friday with GWS beating the Cats. But at the line, they'd be absolutely smashing punters left, right and centre. But it was It was somewhat soothing to hear him say that the NRL, they've been getting belted with the top sides like our Storm and the anytime try scorers, which we've tried to be leading punters into as well. So if you can find a weakness or a total or an area, just keep staking, I guess, heavily in those areas. And if the AFL's too tough, stake down and bet somewhere else where you've got more confidence or got more of an edge.
Yeah, it's happened to us this year. I noticed myself, which I don't. I mean, I've bet NRL in the past, but not to the levels have this year.
This year you've been enormous on it, haven't you? Yeah,
it's been more consistent and stuff. I'm not sure if it's always COVID related, but it seems to in the AFL eyes. I just think again we sit here on a Wednesday morning. We still don't know the schedule ahead for this weekend. Hence, we're just lacking a few prices. But it's got to play some part where the routine's taken away from the AFL teams, and that's probably provided some of the inconsistencies that we've seen. I haven't seen a stat this deep, 64% of favourites for a year. To give you some context, I think generally it runs between about 68 to 73 would be, say going back over the last 10 years of favourites. Yep. That's pretty much the ball. You work on a 70%, and if it's above 70%, you'd say it leans to the punters for the year, and below 70%, that's kind of the benchmark. 64 going in with 2 rounds to go is extraordinary for bookies. And you can see with obviously the line covering being at 44 as well. Their last 5 weeks, the bookies have had an absolute fill in the AFL.
Fascinating stuff, 10 years worth of stats. 64% is well down, so you're no fool if you've been tripped up by a couple of them, and they're just not running straight at all. It's crazy, but I guess in COVID times, anything can and will happen. Let's have a look at the hits and misses where all the big money went last week. The Geelong line was almost a 1-y, 31.5 to 39.5. That was a miss with a 19-point victory to GWS. The total there was 153 to 147. There was a middle there. Richmond Kangas, again, 156 to 151. That was a hit. The Sydney line was 14.5 to 8.5, and Saints got the big upset there. Port were, they fell in 32.5 to 38.5. They do sometimes love one of those low, they can pull out a low, scrappy affair, a little bit like the Cats, can't they?
Yeah, it was an interesting one for a showdown as well. They've got a history of a lot of close games, and we thought around that 30-32, I think, when we did the show was probably where it needed to be. But yeah, they went right on with the job, the punters, and for close 38, really low scoring game. So big miss there.
Collingwood 1.5 to 7.5 point favourites. So the market flipped on its head there. I had a little bit of a giggle with you, and we were sort of taking the piss out of each other last week, and you said Collingwood will start the favourite clearly here when the game got moved back from Tassie. Yep. And I sort of joked and said, Hawks are still not that bad at the MCG, and you said, well, it's about the market and blah, blah, blah. And I said, we're still a chance, and that's why I think there's a grey goose on the table for me. But I thought the Hawks were good. They rolled them early. They stuck to the game plan. It was interesting. I heard Clarko say at half-time that it was a pretty open affair and a lot of scoring, where I think traditionally a lot of people would have thought and looked at that game and thought, it's still that zone-type football. But that's the mentality of someone like Clarkson. I think he thought it was pretty free-flowing. I think it was like 51 to 27 or something at half-time. Yeah. But he thought it was a real open style of game. So I guess that's how a coach sees the game, and he thinks that's open football, whereas it's not really what the fans like or consider as open football. The game's just this gridded zone now.
Yeah, we think 97 to 78 is normal football in terms of the final score. We'd like to see that majority of the weeks instead of being the minority. It'll just be interesting that Hawthorn the last couple of weeks, I know we've only got 2 weeks for them to go, just whether they play a bit more freer style now. They're not really motivated by anything in terms of playing finals or anything, so they might play open the next couple of weeks. So just keep an eye on the totals with these lower sides now that they might drop off, try a few things, change some players around, play with a bit more freedom. So we might get some more scoring. But I just think it was not disappointing to fall into Collingwood. I thought the price was wrong at the time, and it was justified a bit with the way it closed at 7. I just think it enhances the week before of what West Coast did against Collingwood and bought into that too much. And Hawthorn got the job done still at the G.
Hawthorn, I think 3 wins, 4 losses against top 8 sides. So there's a glimmer of hope for us Hawthorn supporters out there. So hang in there.
Got a lot of injuries as well, Hawthorn.
And Collingwood come back, and there's a couple of good players. They've blooded a lot of good players. I still think that Collingwood and Hawthorn are in good spots if you compare them to, say, a Carlton or St Kilda or some of those other middle-of-the-road type teams. There's hope out there for both clubs.
Yeah, I think, in the off-season and stuff like that going forward, both clubs will give themselves reasonable chances to be attacking the 8 next year, I think, with... as you said, they've blooded some kids. They've had their fair share of injuries and stuff like that. With clean air, new coaches, I think but one of them will definitely give it a run close to the 8 for next year.
Okay, that's we're sort of gone off course there. But Western Bulldogs 21.5 to 26.5, the big move there, and Bombers got the job done. My other side, the Bombers, they're up and about. You're wedded. You're in there with Bombers officials, but they're starting to hum along. They've made up for their little indiscretion up at Gold Coast Stadium against the Giants. They've given himself a real good run for the 8 here. The total also was heavily back, 165.5 to 171, so that was a hit. The minus Bulldogs was a miss. And then the other money was for Fremantle Brisbane, the under 157 to 152.5, and that was a miss. So majority of the betting plunges last week missed, and a really big week, as we said, for the bookies. Interesting stuff that we can talk about in Sting of the Tail. I think we're going to leave the Tex Walker thing right alone. It's a sad, similar old tune there. The AFL players just don't get it. Some of them, it's a disgrace, really. The something else is that it's a disgrace. There's 2 little quick Sting of the Tails here. The MRO, and I think Heath Shaw, a friend of the show, had a cracking tweet. And if you're watching the show at home, we'll put it up on the screen now. And he's tweeted a picture after Toby Green has been rubbed out for that elbow with Patrick Dangerfield, and it's a picture of Peter Griffin from Family Guy. And he's getting his licence checked. He's getting pulled over here, and it says okay, and there's a picture of Joel Selwood. So if Joel Selwood does something similar, he doesn't get suspended. But the not okay is Toby Green. So there is just no consistency. And Toby Green's a great player. I'm not sure he's top 5 or top 3 in the league. He's a game changer, though. He can win a game off his own boot. But the handling of him from the MRO and the AFL in general, he's on a different level of scrutiny. And I know, he plays on the edge, but you can't just keep bashing this player into the ground for what he's done in the past. It just seems unfair to me. And I think the little picture that Heath Shaw put up was pretty spot on. He does get unfairly handled, doesn't he?
It's always been the case in history.
It's just crap,
of AFL. They always have their
bad guys.
The bad guys or the guys that just find trouble and stuff. And some of it is self-inflicted. He, Toby Green's a player that plays on the edge.
But you could say that about Selwood. He does. He's been pushing people in the ground, rubbing their nose in it, and he's got a bit of prick in him. Yes,
he does. You're anti-Geelong, though, but that's true. There's definitely one set of rules. I'm not going to say it's a set of rules for Geelong because that's a bit too much of a stretch, but geez, there's plenty of different supporter bases out there that will say Geelong get looked after a lot. And I think we also saw a tweet during the week where they showed a lot of different incidents that either were suspended or were not and should have been, and it was quite amusing that there was about 8 pitches put up and Geelong were in 6 of them, either pro or con. So, maybe they attract a little bit more or less as well. But I just think the AFL, I think they're trying to limp to the end of a season with this MRO system. And then in the off-season, we'll need a complete overhaul. The they've got a big off-season ahead of them, the AFL. I just think right now their focus is just and it should be, is just to get through the season. And I think they're just giving up in a lot of areas, to be frank. They just want this season over with, and COVID's their main priority of getting the season through. They're not going to fix the MRO right now. And I know media love beating up on it, and unfortunately some players are going to miss out. Toby Green could potentially, if he'd done this in round 23, he potentially misses 1 or 2 finals.
Crazy.
Going forward. Now, I know he's been downgraded from 2 to 1, but this is just an example that, what if this did happen in a prelim and your team is going into the grand final?
You'd be beside yourself.
And that was the Giants going to the grand final, and Toby Green misses because of this incident. So they got a lot wrong to get to suspend Green. I know they overturned the Essendon player, which they should have done for the Bont tackle. But, Selwood should have got something for that hit. We've seen plenty of the same hits. So, it's just lacks consistency, no structure, and it'll have to be overhauled in the off-season.
Just that last sentence that you said, you could be talking about Carlton Footy Club. Lack consistency, no structure, needs an overhaul in the off-season. Okay. And that's the second part of the Sting in the Tail. And we opened the show with the Carlton theme song because just in case they're not going to hear it for a little bit of time, but we jest. We're only taking the piss here. But David Teague and his presses, they're just not inspiring for me. And obviously I'm not privy to what happens behind closed doors, and he might have a hard edge behind closed doors, but he's not. It's just not working at Carlton down there. Yep. They don't have a hard edge whatsoever. They've dropped some pretty poor games, and they're a bit of a laughing stock, I think, from all the promises that they've sort of spoken about, and then just the lack of deliverance, the way they've recruited players, and even their governance. I think the way that they've played players injured, McKay, Cripps. Yep. They're just not long-term in their thinking. And it can date back to, I guess, the Judd. They just seem to be always taking shortcuts, the Blues, and they need an overhaul. And I think it starts with Teague. And we often joke, we love to get coaches sacked on this show, and Top Rope, takes the piss out of it. But I think Teague, he's a dead man walking, has to be.
Yeah, well, he knows it. I just think they're just limping through for the end of the season. Carlton need a massive overhaul. They're not playing finals. They're just too inconsistent. But
they're not tough, are they?
No, and unfortunately,
what do they need?
Unfortunately, being an AFL coach, you need to be much more than just a great, with game strategy and people good for your players. You need to portray your club in a certain way, and media is a big part of that. And you look at someone like Clarko or something like that knows how to handle the media. In a positive light. Even Scott for Geelong, I know you're not a fan of Chris Scott, but, he looks after his players and he projects very well when he speaks. I'm always impressed when I see Scott, in how he goes about the media. He doesn't take a backward step, but he seems always on the positive side, and he thinks about what he says. Now, Teague needs to come out and obviously be stronger, but, we don't want to keep beating up on Teague because, I think he knows his time is done. I think the problem for Carlton is, you're right, they don't think for the future. They think for the now, and I think that's they've always had this arrogance ever since I've been a part of football, from the late 70s into the 80s. Carlton, through their successes, have this air of arrogance about it. And they still portray that now, even though for the last 2 decades they've been one of the worst, if not the worst, performed team in the comp. Yet they still walk around. And as you said, they went into the start of this year, and the way they recruited, and they hyped themselves up that they were almost going to be a top 4 side this year, the way they go about it. Again, they've failed. So I think it starts right from the top. It's the coach is going to take the fall for this, and they'll need a strong coach going forward. They can't go with a first-timer or someone who's inexperienced.
They need to go a bit blue-collar, rebrand, and
they need
a bit of ticker.
Yeah, they also need to stay out of the media more, especially their off-field people. They don't need to hype it up. They've got the supporters, and they'll come with success. They don't need false promises that they can't deliver. When they get a new coach in, just build from the ground up. You're right. Build with that hard-edge toughness. The fan base will come along with you when you start winning. You don't need to overhype your club to get results done. You only set them up for a fall, and you get in the media for the wrong reason. So I think Carlton, like the AFL, have got a big off-season ahead of them.
It's going to be fascinating to see what happens in the next couple of weeks off the back of their coaching review. All right, we're going to have a look at the AFL this week, the NRL lock of the week, which we're doing dismally. It's a Carlton-like performance like that, for us with lock of the week. We're absolutely making a meal of it like I just did then. We're going to have a look at the NRL with Top Rope Tedeschi Hall of Fame. We'll talk about the Olympics, but if you're having a bet this weekend, make sure you check out topsport.com.au. They've been in the game for 35 years. The Merlions up at the Gold Coast. they're not scared to take a big bet, and they're proud sponsors of our show. Up next, we're going to have a look at AFL round 22, and we'll get MG's thoughts with big queries around venues due to COVID and bookmakers with not many prices up on their boards at all. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast. I'm your host, Scoot, and I've got MG in studio. It's time to talk AFL round 22. Lots of chaos at the moment with COVID everywhere, infiltrating the country and making a meal of the fixturing. So bookies all year have been going up a little bit later than usual, and this week is an absolute howler. Here we are Wednesday with no prices up. So we're going to do a little bit differently, and MG's going to give you a forecast, or he's going to just tell you what he thinks the markets should be. So it's a nice little bit of insight versus what's happening out there, and you'll see how he goes about it. So the first game we're going to talk about now is Friday night, GWS Giants versus Richmond, early elimination final, 8v10. Big stakes here. Both teams are yo-yoing. Richmond have had their fair share of injuries all season. Their zest, their hunger seems to be not what it was. They've lost some speed as well as their list ages. And then GWS, they're Jekyll and Hyde. Barracking for that side would be hell.
Yeah, there's a few sides you wouldn't want to be on this year, and GWS is one of them. But
Toby Green's a big out with suspension.
Yeah, so just to update, obviously last night he was suspended for 2 and they fought it to 1 now. Earlier reports are that GWS may take this further. They've got nothing to lose, so he may yet play. The time might be the factor, this being a Friday night game. We're already at Wednesday morning. I'm not sure how quickly they can turn it around, taking that extra step, whether they can get it through Thursday night or not, but I think for the now we'll take it that Toby Green is going to miss from a pricing point of view. We still don't have a venue, which will obviously change it, the price betting. But I think right now, you're looking at Richmond going in slight favourites, probably around the 4 to 6 point favourite mark at this stage. That on the basis of we don't know the venue and Toby Green being out. So Richmond slight favourites for me. They've got a pretty good record over GWS of recently. They've won 3 of the last 4, and if you remember back, they obviously smashed them in the 2019 grand final. And
it's usually a game decided by venue. So if it's GWS, heavy home ground advantage, it's usually their way. And then similarly down at the MCG, the Giants just don't go a yard. So, so venue's everything here.
The last 12 straight have been decided by the home team. But we may not get a home team. Say if this ends up being played in Geelong again, maybe, or something like that. So the venue's obviously a sticking point, but at this stage, it's going to be a competitive betting match. It'll be closer to pick 'em, but I just think Richmond at this stage.
You'd lean that way?
They'll be shading in the betting, and I will lean that way. I think
with Kanga's form, dodgy Kanga's form versus the Grouse Cats form.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be a keen betting game. I think to start the week off, you don't want to be digging yourself too great a hole on following one of these sides that, as you said, are very up and down. Yeah, so wait for the venue, see what happens, and also Toby Green. If he does play and they do get him off, I would say Giants then start slight favourites.
Well, the Cats versus the Saints, it should be at Geelong at the Cattery down there Saturday afternoon. It's an interesting one because Geelong have got a chance to finish top 2 if either Doggies or the D's stumble. The Doggies stumbled last week against West Coast, and the D's got away with the lightning strike over there at Perth. This is a game that Geelong off a loss is scary proposition for the Saints. Saints have got a big scalp in the Swans, and they're starting to turn their season around all too late. But I don't like the idea of Geelong off a loss.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest point. I think Scott will have him primed for this week, and that will be the impetus of losing last week. Will probably set the tone now for the rest of the year for Geelong. That they've their mindset's got to be switched on, and even home ground advantage is not going to get the job done. St Kilda, another one of those sides, being very up and down. Their worst is the worst in the comp. They've had some smashings this year, and then all of a sudden, I think there might have been outlying reasons. Maybe they got the win over Sydney last week, but they still got the job done, and at times they do show they can be impressive. And I tell you what, they're led by Steele in the middle, so Geelong are going to have to pay close attention to him. But Geelong won't lose 2 in a row down at
down at home.
Yeah, GBH.
And they're a bit of a bunny for the Cats, the Saints, haven't they? I think the last 5 in a row.
Yeah,
Geelong
I just
have
think
touched them up.
there's a few things obviously to watch out. Jeremy Cameron's likely to return, which will be a huge in for the Cats. Dangerfield's a question mark, but they might get back like a few of their edge players like O'Connor and Henderson. So the players in and outs might be big for Geelong as well. If they get Cameron back in, I think Geelong will start somewhere between 4 and 5 goal favourites.
Yep.
And, the way Geelong have been backed the last couple of weeks, I think the market will probably tend to them at home.
You've got to start really, really hot down at the Cattery, or they can just blow you off the park. And full credit to GWS last week. They did just that with some strong early scoring and take the confidence away from them. And we've got Gold Coast and Essendon on Saturday afternoon at Metricon with a little bit of a COVID asterisk around the venue here. Fingers crossed it can get played up there. Gold Coast deserve the home game here. But oddly, Essendon haven't played Gold Coast all year. They've played at Metricon a couple of times, but round 22... the draw or the fixture or whatever they call it isn't really sweet if we're round 22 and the Bombers haven't faced up against Gold Coast. But Gold Coast and Collingwood the next 2 weeks, Essendon, their season, all their good work and their improvement will just go down the gurgle if they don't get wins on the board for the next 2 matches.
Yeah, there's to lose. I think we'll show it just a bit later when we discuss the futures, but I've got Essendon winning the last 2. No great surprise. They'll start strong favourites in both. And with the other games, how they're panned out price-wise, I think Essendon will now finish 7th. So
nice.
As long as they take care of their own business and what shakes out, they should finish 7th. But I see them definitely playing finals. And they've got a good road in. They had to take a scalp in the last 2 weeks. They got it with the Bulldogs. Very impressive. They're playing the right way. You remember they played Sydney the week before. They were in it. Another high-level game. So I just think the way Essendon are going now, they won't have the pressure on them. They got
a high percentage too.
They play the right way, and I just think it'll be a big job for either Gold Coast or Collingwood to stop their run for the finals now. So I see them finishing 7th. They'll take care of this game. They'll probably start around the 18 to 20 point favourite, if it is at the Gold Coast.
Would that interest you, that line, the minus?
Yeah, I mean, you got to check the weather and stuff like that. Obviously, see the ins and outs. But Gold Coast have had some massive drop-offs this year. And against a potential high-scoring side like Essendon, they might want to put this game away real early, so that they're not fighting it out late. So yes, it could if it's low side. And they've got a good strong side in Essendon, which they don't seem to have had too many injuries. They could definitely interest me.
All right, the derby. We're going to have a crowd for Fremantle and West Coast. This won't be changing. Captain Mark McGowan has got things sorted over in WA, that is for sure. So it'll be great to see a full house here. And it's 7th West Coast versus 12th Fremantle. And it's still just fascinating for me to see a side that is so inconsistent and just languishing there at 95.5%. West Coast still in the finals mix.
Yes,
I'm talking through my kick because they've cost me, and I'm sure all our listeners at home. The mind boggles when I see them still in the 8. They just look like a false finalist.
Yes.
Just made that up.
Well,
it's a new thing.
You'd
love to have West Coast in the first week of finals. I'm saying home or away. I'd take them on over there.
Yeah.
They're venomous at the moment.
Yeah, they're a tough side to get a read on for sure. And unfortunately, we're going to be carrying 1, maybe 2 ordinary sides into the finals. It's just the way it's panned out this year. The top end's been far more dominant and the rest are a mess. And this looks like a closer game than it should be. In terms of win-loss, they're only 1 difference. West Coast on 10 and Fremantle on 9. So in terms of competitiveness, but Fremantle actually can't make the 8 with their percentage. West Coast are fighting for their life. They can't afford to drop this game because they've got Brisbane in the last game, which would be unlikely for them to get that win. So this is their final. This is their elimination final. So I expect West Coast to come out and get the job done. Fremantle have obviously got some key injuries. Fife and Walters still missing. West Coast might get a few back, looking for maybe Barras, Shuey, Ryan, those kind of players might come back, obviously help them out. And the scoreboard did flatter them against Melbourne, obviously, with
the Lightning, yeah.
Yeah, if the Lightning didn't come, it could have ended up, 6 goals or maybe worse the way Melbourne were going. To finish only 9 points flatters them a bit. I think the betting's probably going to be around the 15-point mark, somewhere around there, between the 2 and 3 goals. But yeah, listen, I'm not going to fall into West Coast anymore. I think I'll put the Q in the rack for West Coast. We'll see what the betting shakes out, but this would be West Coast's most disappointing loss. They've won 11 straight against Freo, so they've owned them in terms of the recent history. They'll have a crowd there.
What price and what plus could you get interested in with the Dockers?
For Fremantle?
Yeah. How many goals start?
18.
3 goals
Three
start.
goals.
You'd be all over them.
Not all over them, but it would.
I would be.
It would be interesting. We'll see what the betting comes out. They've been hard sides to follow, obviously, and Freo now have got the drop off where they can't make finals, and West Coast do, all or nothing. So it's hard to bet Fremantle in knowing that what drop off they might have. So we'll just see what the betting comes out. Obviously, the players are key. We do know that this will be played Sunday night over in the West. They will have a crowd, but I'm expecting West Coast to find a way to win this.
All right, cool. What we will do, we've just been posting a little short, sharp video on Fridays. We call it Free Tip Friday, and we review and we point you guys in the direction of where the summary sheets are for the weekend's tip. So Mark and I might go through a couple of the games once the markets are up, and we'll do a quick run through there. So if you want to hear our second opinion once all the markets have moved and are out, we'll definitely provide an update on Friday afternoon. That's for sure. Let's have a look at buy, hold, sell. This is where we look at the futures markets, which are all up thanks to topsport.com.au, and we'll start with the premiership betting here. And just when you think you've got it sorted, the top 4 and the major chances, they all go and get beat. I'm talking about the Cats, who are favourite, $4, getting upset last week. The Western Bulldogs, $4.25. They got turned over by the Bombers. And then the D's back into contention with a win on the road, and a little bit flattered the Eagles by the lightning strike there, $4.50. The D's obviously suited by the MCG if the ground and venue doesn't change for the grand final there. Port Adelaide at $8, Brisbane Lions $9, Swans $12, Richmond Tigers $31, GWS $41 and $51. The Bombers, as we said, West Coast Eagles $51 and $251 for Dockers and Saints, who need a lot to go right given their percentage and how many wins they're on at the moment. I still lean for the Bulldogs. I think they've got so many players, and Josh Bruce. Well, we've been speaking about this off air a lot in the last 4 to 6 weeks, how that structurally will work with English, Jamara, and Norton, obviously. They probably couldn't carry all of those players into the prelim or the grand final anyway. Yep. And you sneakily said to me a little while ago that Josh Bruce mightn't be... Well, you'd nearly drop him because English has got the capacity to double in the ruck. Yep. And so there's an angle for him. Jamara's starting to get up and about. So it's not as bad as it sounds, is it, the Josh Bruce loss? No, from and I'm sort of with you here.
I think selection-wise it was going to be close, and probably Jamara was going to be the one to miss because Bruce is, he's going to finish second in the Coleman, so it's not like he's limping or anything like that. But, geez, he had the kicking yips before he went down as well, so that might not have boded well for him going forward. But now they just don't have the option, they don't have the flexibility, and also now they don't have the backup of going in, and... it takes away the element of surprise now for the opposition coaches, for the defenses, that they can really go and attack, probably shut down Norton, and then it forces one of English or Jamara to go and beat you. And then it becomes a big pressure thing in finals for a young kid like Jamara to potentially be your match winner. So it does, it will hurt him in that, and you've seen it recently with Hipwood coming out of Brisbane. It's just that one big man that can really rock the boat. It's disappointing, and to happen in the last minute for him as well it was really disappointing to see for Bruce. So wish him well in his recovery. But
they're still the team to beat. They've just got so many options.
Yeah, they are. I just think it's going to be so crucial with where the games are played here. I just think if Geelong get some home grounds, I know they lost on the weekend, but if
they can push to top 2,
there's going to be some teams that are going to scream. during this final series that, their fans are going to be saying, well, how come we finished this, that, and now we've got to play away. It's just going to be the way it is. It's going to have a big effect on the betting market. So right now it's probably a little hard to come in. I don't think there's too much edge there in the betting market. You're just going to have to play and wait and see.
All right, there's an interesting market called the Brownlow Medal, and our favourite is Staldy. He didn't poll last week for mine. Marcus Bontempelli, $2.14 at topsport.com.au. Ollie Wines, $4.70. Clayton Oliver, $7. Jack Steele, he's a favourite with MG, $9.50. He loves him. Sam Walsh, $9.75. We've been critical all year. Maybe we're right. Darcy Parish, my man, I love him, $11. Christian Petrarca, he's ballooning back out in price, $13. Jack McRae, $21. Zach Merritt, $26. Tommy Mitchell, $31. Luke Parker, $34. Lyons, $46. And then Cam Guthrie is best of the Cats, which is a real big surprise given how many wins Geelong have got. But the Bont, no votes last week. Ollie Wines is right in the mix here, and Clayton Oliver too.
Geez, you put a line through the Bont. He had 34 touches and a goal.
Does he get a vote to sneak one?
I think he's definitely in the mix. Obviously,
they lost.
Peter Wright got 7 goals, so he takes care of three.
He's got a 3 or 2.
McRae had 38 in a losing side, Bont 34, and then obviously Parish and Merritt. So 4 of the top 10 in the betting
fascinating,
will be fighting out the 3 and 2. Bont could miss, but Bont could definitely get the 1 or the 2 there as well. The Brownlow's hotting up, starting to get really excited because it's a while since we've had a competitive Brownlow. So hopefully we can just hold fat the next 2 weeks, and we can have a serious dip at this year's Brownlow. But I'm not declaring this one over. I know we've been we tipped the Bont up big at the start of the year. We've kind of rode his coattails. We've certainly found some value in the others, but he's too short right now. And this is a competitive Brownlow with two rounds to go. And the last round, which we will look forward to next year, next week. If you've looked ahead, Scooty, the top 4 teams all play each other right now, coming into the last round, and it could well also decide the Brownlow for mine. So, stay tuned. But right now, if I was having a bet on the value, I still think I'm going to tip Jack Steele. I think if I was going to have one bet this week,
he's the smoky.
Jack Steele's just the floater around that $10.
It's going to be a fascinating count, that's for sure, and we might drop Mark's set, or we might start a punters club, or we'll figure out what we're going to do with the Brownlow in another week's time, pending some IT development. So stay tuned for that one. Hopefully we get the best count. Seems like we've just been ripped off for the last few years. It's been all too obvious. So they are absolutely due a nice cliffhanger. And as Mark said, a couple of the top sides are playing each other. So hopefully it goes right down to the wire. We need all the excitement we can in our lives, given the lockdown mania that's swept Australia by storm. If you want to sink your teeth into something during lockdown, it's puntingform.com.au. You can build your own horse racing model. They've got form and data for Australia. They've got form and data for Singapore and Hong Kong, and they've got sectional benchmarks and splits. So puntingform.com.au is where you need to go, and they're a big supporter of us. So we're going to take a break. As we said, AFL, if you want more information from us, make sure you check out our Twitter handle at Little Birdie TV, and we'll do a Friday afternoon review of how the lines have settled with the AFL bookies, and especially Top Sport, where all the big money goes. But we'll take a break now, and we'll come back with Top Rope Tedeschi, and we'll talk some Rugby League and some Hall of Fame. Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast. I'm your host, Scoot. I've got MG in studio. Now it's time to talk NRL and Hall of Fame, and who else but our Olympic gold medal hero, Top Rope Tedeschi. How are you, big fella?
I'm tired, Scooty. I'm really, really tired. It was a draining couple of weeks, the Olympics. It was early starts, late nights, but gee, wasn't it fun, cheering on the weightlifting and having strong views on the fencing, getting around the rhythmic gymnastics. Wild couple of weeks, but a bit more back into rhythm this week.
And a little family holiday, cherry on top for the last couple of days. Just a bit of penance there. You've been a very naughty boy, and a lot of holding hands, and that would have been hard work, especially with a feast of rugby league last weekend.
I'm currently in my house right now, Scoot, so let's just say we had a wonderful time. We all enjoyed it. And there's nothing like a little bit of antique shopping on a Saturday afternoon.
Jeeves. Oh, absolute fresh hell. But let's go through some of the results, because they were really important games, I feel, in the context of the overall premiership season. But my Bunnies crushed the Eels 40-12. Thoughts on that game?
Yeah, Bunnies are a real deal. They're averaging 44.5 points a game over their last 7 weeks. So they're really kind of getting to that rhythm at the right time. And they're going to get that little emotional kick come the kind of this last month and the finals. Wayne Bennett leaving, Adam Reynolds leaving,
yeah,
Benji Marshall possibly retiring as well. So there'll be a little bit of emotion there, I think. So South's definitely not out of the running, but and coming good at the right time of year. Parramatta going in the very opposite direction. Questions already being asked. You don't often see a top 4 coach in the hot seat, but Eels collapsing at the back end of the year. Brad Arthur looks to be a bit of strife.
That's what we like, coach sackings. Penrith Panthers versus the Roosters. It was 2014. It just feels like we hadn't had enough, but I think there's an AFL one just around the corner. But the Panthers 2014 over the Chooks. Thoughts?
Yeah, Chooks doing their best at the moment. Absolutely doing their best in pretty trying circumstances with the injury list they've got and the number of retirements they've had. I thought they were pretty courageous again. They're really just trying to rely on their defence to get them home. Penrith, I think it raises a few question marks. Penrith have got the knock last year around struggling to play away from home. Up in Queensland, they've kind of been decidedly unimpressive over the last little bit. So, interesting game this week. They're going heavy favourite against the Dragons. Nathan Cleary may be back, named on the extended reserves. But, I thought Penrith were entitled, particularly when they jumped to that early lead, to run away with that game and didn't. So, I think that game says probably more about Penrith than it does about the Roosters.
Okay, yeah, you've been a bit of a critic about the Panthers all year, but you've definitely shot well in the Bunnies pre-season. They were one of your bolters, and no doubt Storm are the auto bet for you. And I watched all of that match on Saturday night, the Storm versus Manly, and it's scary at the moment. Pappenhausen only half fit, and they've just got multiple weapons in attack. And Jerome Hughes, his line break, and I think he's like a check side AFL-style kick to maybe set up Cam Munster. Like the skill and the attacking prowess of a handful of Storm players just leaves defences absolutely rattled. I think they bluff their way into probably 2 tries a match, given how many different weapons. They just don't know where to run their defence.
You know what's astonishing? Jerome Hughes came to the Storm 3 or 4 years ago, having played just a single first-grade game for the Cowboys, bottom 4, single first-grade game for the Titans, having made the 8 in heaven knows how long, couldn't get a run there as a half, then was kind of touted as the third-string fullback for the Storm behind Scott Drinkwater and Ryan Pappenhausen. All of a sudden, he's the best halfback in the game. That tells you all you need to know about the Storm. His skill level's amazing, and you're spot on. Ryan Pappenhausen's a long way from being his best. That's one thing Belgium will have to sort out, what he does with Hines and Pappenhausen. But they can just throw everything at you. They will. Their middle forwards can attack you. Harry Grant was amazing going through the middle last week. Hughes can run. They can all run. They can all pass. They can all kick. It's an amazing skill set they've got going on there. So they're incredible to watch them. Statistically, they're the greatest attacking side rugby league's ever known, or the NRL's ever known. So I think we'll continue to see that. But you're spot on. They've probably got 6 or 7 playmakers when most teams have 0.
It's a joy to watch. We say they're an auto bet every week, and they barely ever let us down. Let's have a look at the NRL Premiership market. Odds up on the screen, courtesy of topsport.com.au, and the Storm are $2.15. Still looks a good price if you've missed the boat all season, haven't listened to us pre-season, haven't listened to us for the last 20-odd weeks. I still think the $2.15 is good betting. They'll jump odds on. It'll take a freak of nature for them not to make the final. Penrith Panthers, $4. South Sydney Rabbits, still a good price. Listing to top rope there, $6. Manly Seagulls could be a bit one-dimensional, though dangerous down the left with Tommy Turbo and Ruben Garrick, $9.50. The Roosters, $18. Parramatta, $34. And pretty much kiss your mother the rest. There's Yeah, there's not many chances there, and the Storm, they've just got too many attacking options for mine, but they're definitely the way that I'd be going. And Hall of Fame time, top rope Tedeschi. It's an illustrious list of people that have done amazing things for the punt. We've got all the big names in there. Jamie Carr, Hugh Bowman, Marksman Ollie has been in there with Barosha, the text message that stopped a nation. It's a wonderful list of characters that have done something amazing on the punt, but I was tempted to add the Great Britons in the 4x100 men's had they not got absolutely licked on the line against the Italians, who, I'm told, are under a bit of a cloud, so he may have got absolutely handled there in the men's 4x1 athletics. Top rope Tedeschi. That was elite tipping from you. They've got beat 0.01 hundredths of a second or something. Absolutely nailed on the line at $10 or $11 in the 4x100 men's, and there's a bit of a whiff about the Italians. Can you believe it?
They're under a cloud of suspicion like Ben Johnson's under a cloud of suspicion. Please. Guilty. Gone. Absolutely stiff as a board there. We were on at the good price and just couldn't get it done. It was...
What did we trade? 101? for any amount of money.
Absolutely sickening. It was those who followed the torches got off to a pretty hot start. We had a really good middle. It was some tough sledding on the last few days, and that probably took the cake as absolutely the sickest beat of all.
The Danes in the men's handball final against the French, 2-point loss there. There's a handful of absolute crushing sick beats, but he still won 5% on his turnovers, and it was an absolute hot start, as you said. Some of the prices you took and beating SP, not that the markets are flimsy, so it's not a genuine SP. Everyone's sort of guessing, but yeah. I think, what do you think? Top rope probably. Can you go in your own Hall of Fame? Top rope, get in there, MG?
Yeah, I was trying to check the
rules.
rules.
Can we put him in?
Scooty.
There's no rules. We've got PVL in there. There's no rules.
I was just checking his own T's and C's, whether Top Rope can go into his own Hall of Fame. I don't know how he'd go presenting his own jacket if he won it at the end of the year. I'm not sure how that goes.
What do you think, Top Rope? Can we put you in there? You got a better? Have you got someone better?
I couldn't put myself in there. It's you don't get yourself going through a labour of love like we did there, Scooty. It was as much fun for me as it was for the punters. And I'll tell you what I'm hoping, head trader at Sportsbet, head trader at Ladbrokes, head trader at 365. Listen,
stay.
We need all these markets for Com Games, for Winter Olympics. Heads up, Paralympics just around the corner. Let's get it on. Let's not be silly.
We will bet on it.
We will bet on it. We will tip it. We are up and about. But look, it was good fun, and it does go to show the power of if you are going to bet on something, putting a bit of research into it, or investing in someone who does put a bit of research into it, can take you a long way. Because you said 5% on turnover. Sure, that was positive. What about the turnover? That we had plenty of it. We were not short of a bet. So pretty diverse across the thing. Name the Hall of Fame this week. I'm going to go with probably my new favourite weightlifter, Akbar Jurev. Akbar Jurev, one of the great Azerbaijani. Akbar Jurev. He, I'm not sure if you're aware, guys. He was one of the few non-favourites to win the gold. He was
found another
down
one.
on the snatch. He was. We found the one. We found the other one at $1.10. And we had this great monobrowed legend from Eastern Europe. He beat Simon Mastinati. Now, I'm sure I've said that incorrectly, but we'll roll with it. He is currently facing criminal charges for manslaughter for some kind of hit-and-run incident. So I thought that's a good lay. The pressure of that will get to him. Anyway, our man goes, you know what? He's down the snatch. He went for a big number, broke his all-time record, all-time PB on the clean and jerk, set a couple of kilos above for this guy facing charges. The guy had 2 goes at it, couldn't get it up. Our man did it. Unlike most of these weightlifters who just like to fiddle around the edges, he set a target and said, come get me. And he couldn't get him.
Gold. Weightlifting gold. Outstanding and lateral selection into the Hall of Fame as per usual there. Top rope Tedeschi, very stiff yourself. We might have to go to the rule book and make sure that we can get him in there. I tell you what, if Storm and Bellyache hit the line and he's called it early, his futures bets Hall of Fame worthy. But can't wait for top ropes com games. The best thing about the delayed Olympics is we get com games and we get winter games. It all just starts to compress. And
you got world champs as well. He's got a big 2022 ahead top rope.
I think we'll have to fly you in. COVID will still be circling at that stage. I think we'll fly you in. We'll put you up at the big house, and I think we might just do a live stream of top rope for the Olympic Games. You might go home to an empty house, but it looks pretty empty up there anyway, big fella.
I'll be honest. Big Brother Olympics 2024. Oh wow, that could be ugly. Some of my personal wagering habits are not really meant for presentation. So watch out, punters.
Hopefully we're flying by then and we can actually have a live location over in Paris for top rope in 2 weeks.
Well, we have been talking about a London office, so stay tuned for that one. It's hotting up. We're going to take a quick little break, and if you want to do some research on the ponies this spring, make sure you check out puntingform.com.au. They're Australia's best form guide and betting database. So puntingform.com.au if you want sectional times and breakdowns. So all the pros use the Punting Form database, or they get the raw data. So check them out today. We'll take a quick break and then we'll look at the next round of rugby league. Welcome back to Little Birdie. I'm your host Scoot, and I've got MG in studio. We'll talk top rope Tedeschi Rugby League round 22 now, and the first game that we're going to kick off here is Melbourne Storm versus the Canberra Raiders, and the Storm are 106, Canberra Raiders $10. The line there at 23.5, 185 the minus, no surprise there, and the total is 49.5. We spoke about it earlier. How will Canberra stop the multi-pronged Storm attack?
Yeah, they're not going to. Pretty simple like that. It's going to a couple of weeks ago when Newcastle, without Pierce, just Callum Ponga, took on the Raiders, and the left edge got absolutely carved up. The right edge Canberra defence, the left edge where Melbourne will be running. That's Justin Olam and Josh Adokar, two of the most potent players in the game. There are going to be holes all over the field for the Raiders. Their defence is not strong. The Storm have a great record against the Raiders. They've absolutely punished them the last 2 times they've played here. This line has been on the move from the get-go, 21.5 out of 23.5. It'll jump more than 24 for sure. It would be a fool's game to back the Raiders here. They're struggling to score points, so they're probably capping out at 10, 12 points max. It's hard. It really is hard not to see the Storm putting on 36 at least here. So I can say, other than the Storm switching off, which has happened probably twice this year, Gold Coast game and the Cowboys game, I think they're a month out from the finals. Those guys will be gearing up. I'll be looking at Pappenhausen back involved, probably more fully, how they're going to use Nico Hines during the finals, all that kind of stuff. So really fascinating time, but I think that the Storm will just cover this easy.
They've got the Titans next week, the Storm, but it might be time to have a look at some of those anytime try scorer markets too, and just get a few Melbourne Storm players queued up there. Outstanding stuff. So that's Thursday night at Sunshine Coast Stadium with a little asterisk because of COVID. Everything's under an asterisk. Let's have a look at Friday night. I think we're going to have a look at Broncos versus the Chooks here at Suncorp. $1.22 the Roosters, away favourites, $4.40 the Broncos, the line 14.5, and the total 51.5 points here. They've been going okay, the Roosters, given their injuries.
They've been battling on pretty well. They've lost a couple more this week. Angus Crichton suspended, Jared Weir-Hargraves, a range of melodies. He only played 11 minutes last week, so I think he's just having a little rest this week. Probably the upset of the year, round 11 weeks back. Broncos went down to the SCG, beat the Roosters 34-16. It was a stunning result. I think the Chooks jumped maybe 24.5 point favourites that game. So some of us were on, I think, 16.5, so no filthiness there. They're not going to get stunned again here, the Chooks. The Broncos, Kevin Walters keeps chopping and changing and pulling all that rubbish that he typically does. What I will be doing is I'll be backing the Roosters. I'll be backing the over. I can see the Roosters really putting the hammer down. And this is top 4. The 4th spot is likely going to come down to differential. They've got the Broncos this week. They're going to have to take full advantage of that. So I think they will really put the hammer down, and they've still got plenty of attacking weapons. So is it as smooth as it was at the start of the year? Definitely not. They've got Jimmy Tedeschi. They've got Joey Manu. Young Sam Walker's still got a very good attacking weapon. So I can see this one getting a bit out of hand for the Broncos.
So you can get the even money, 51.5, if you want to follow Top Rope in on the total over at topsport.com.au. Let's have a look at Saturday night's match. It's a classic, but again, like all rugby league games this year, the line is lopsided. Manly Seagulls $1.20 against Parramatta Eels $4.70 at Sunshine Coast Stadium. Again, the line 14.5, $1.95 the minus, and 49.5 the total there, and money for the under into 185. Scary proposition here for the Eels, catching the Seagulls, who were pretty good against the Storm in defeat. I thought they were close, but still a long way off the Storm.
I agree. I think they've probably played the Storm as impressively as any team has this year. This wasn't a Melbourne Storm flat spot last week. This was Manly playing them pretty well and playing expensive footy. I do like Parramatta here, though. There's a good angle here for the Eels. I think it's worth backing. Firstly, this is a massive game for them. This is likely going to have huge top 4 ramifications. If Parramatta can win this, they'll probably finish in the top 4. If they lose this, they are looking at a very, very tough sledding over the last few weeks to hold that 4th spot. Will likely lose it to the Roosters on Saturday night. So, where I would say that Manly are vulnerable, double-digit favourites off a double-digit loss, as impressive as it may have been, 7-17 against the spread over the last 4 years. That's a huge angle to play against. Manly have covered just 1 of their last 6 when favoured by 12.5 or more all this year. Most recently against the Sharks, where 2 late Cronulla tries gave a backdoor cover there for Cronulla. I think the line is too big. I don't really like the Eels at all. They've lost Reid Marnie, but this is a rivalry game. There's plenty on the line. I think 14.5 too big here. With that angle, I'll be betting the plus.
Big Turbo man, big Manly man, MG. You love betting Manly. What are you going to do here?
Sit out.
Oh, on the fence.
Yeah.
Bit of Turbo. You're just going to take Turbo anytime.
I'm not going to put myself through the pain of cheering against Turbo, so that's okay. I'll get my money on Storm Thursday night.
He just picks his battles. A bit like me on the rugby league. You don't have to play in all of them. You just pick the eyes out of them, and that's the best way to play it sometimes. All right, Sunday afternoon, this is the final match, and we get a look at Redcliffe, the Moreton Daily Stadium up there, and this is a interesting little battle here. Newcastle Knights $1.46 against Cronulla, $2.75. The line 6.5. Some money for the minus there, and 49.5 the total. Neutral venue. Who's suited here? Top Rope.
Yeah, Knights off the map here. Surprised by that. I was pretty ordinary beating the Broncos last week, 28-20. They got to a comfortable lead, couldn't put them to the sword. A huge game for the battle for the top 8. Whoever wins this game is likely probably to finish in the 8th. So Newcastle probably deserve favourites. This line is far too big. The Sharks, play particularly well daytime football, cover it 70% in daytime over the last couple of years. So they're a very good daytime side. So they'll get at least the first half in that. The Knights are horrendous favourites, absolutely horrendous favourites. Sharks go pretty good as a big underdog. So I think Cronulla, the 6.5 is a very, very good bet. I think Cronulla will win the stick, to be honest.
Very confident because Top Rope he does like to find Newcastle Knights. He's a big Knights man when there's an angle there. So I'm very intrigued that he's found the 6.5, the plus there.
Good one for a Sunday afternoon.
Nice one. Nice little way to dig yourself out a hole or just absolutely bury your bookmaker. Either way, something that we haven't been burying our bookmaker with is Lock of the Week for charity, which is upsetting for us. Raise.org.au. They do a fantastic job mentoring kids who are starting to go down the wrong tracks, and we've been going down the wrong tracks for this segment all year. We're trying to bet to the magical 5K mark. Thank God the Bulldozer boys put 10K in the bank. It saves us from doing a nudie run around the pool table with our pants down. We've got some money in there, and last week we went 3 straight losers. The D's let me down and the Cats let me down. The D's at the line and Geelong heads up against the GWS Giants. I am the kiss of death to any side out there in this segment. Either Mark or myself will find an AFL team that'll just turn it up and go to absolute piss. So, Top Rope, we haven't got any AFL markets. We'll send our lock of the week out via email on our Little Birdie Pod email. But give us a lock of the week, and this might be a good omen for you. If we're not tipping now, you might have more luck in this segment to really hammer home your lock of the week. So you've got 5 weeks to go. Give us something for charity. We need to drum some money up, or we'll have to pay out of our own kick.
I'm going to give you a little two-legger. We're going to start with the good thing, Storm minus 23.5. And we're going to have it doubled into South Sydney prop forward Tom Burgess, anytime try at $7. So really like Big Tom to score down the middle this week. You'll get about $13.50 for that, a bit over that. So I think we can get ourselves well on the way to getting that magic $5 mark. No point in stuffing around the edges here, boys. Got to go hard.
I love that. Melbourne Storm minus 23.5 into Tommy Burgess, anytime try scorer against the Titans. So thinking the Titans are going to be a bit weak in the middle there for a $13.50 double. Outstanding stuff, Top Rope, and I like it. None of this pussyfooting around like our man MG. You're just going straight for the jugular, and that's the only way that we're going to get to the 5K after the amount of torches. We should have just put it on the Storm minus every week. We would have sailed over. They're 17 in a row, and they look absolutely unstoppable. Big thanks to you, Top Rope. The last couple of weeks on the Olympic Games stuff was absolutely riveting from our end. It's been a tough time in New South Wales for lockdown, so I'm sure you've helped navigate a lot of people into some really good fun and some winners on the punt up there from your little dungeon in Orange. But thanks, and we'll see you next week.
Doing God's work, boys. God's work. See you next week, fellas.
Outstanding stuff. He doesn't miss a beat, our man, Top Rope. It's been a great show this week, and we'll be back into it for another week next week. Can't wait for this week's AFL and NRL. It's going to be a corker. Yeah. Finals are starting to get a little bit clearer.
It's getting close.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, make sure you check us out on Spotify, SoundCloud. We're in the Apple Store, or you can just follow us on Little Birdie TV if you want to watch all the action on the screen. But good luck, happy punting, and make sure you get around Punting Form and Top Sport, who help us put the show on the road. Thanks, guys.